Working your way in, everyone. Come on in. Thanks for staying on a beautiful day. As you come in, make sure you get your name on the attendance list, both adherents and members. And we will start handing out ballots here shortly as well, so make sure you get one of those. Malcolm and Travis are the ones you can look at.
Good morning and welcome. It is not too late to read the annual reports, the pamphlet that you have received. There are many among us with a vision for the growth and blessing of the church, serving in ways you may not hear about with any kind of detail. So I found it quite encouraging. So even after this meeting, I think it's worth having a read in case you didn't get through it. Some teasers for you. Some of the things that were embedded in these reports. Learning about the power of learning names. Looking for new church visitors. Praying the scriptures. We are a multi-generational community. A safe place for the broken and vulnerable. A call to come and follow the greatest of rabbis. A place of life and blessing for our family. Rooted in an identity of being taken hold of by Christ. A come-and-see church. Celebrate, belong, apprentice, impact, steward. So please take some time to read the reports. I think that you will be encouraged. I was encouraged. Let's pray together before we start our meeting. Beginning with the scripture highlighted in Pastor John's report. Not that I have already achieved the goal, or am already perfect, but I make every effort to take hold of it, because I also have been taken hold of by Christ Jesus. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and reaching forward to what is ahead. I pursue as my goal the prize promised by God's heavenly call in Christ Jesus. Lord, as we meet together, we acknowledge you as the rabbi we follow and try to imitate. Give us grace as we continue together on that journey. Bless our time together discussing the business of the church. Be among us as we listen and discuss matters of administration. Give us wisdom and lead us. We love you, and we say again, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of all creation, who has given us a new day, who is good, and who supplies us with every kindness, who allows us our life today and invites us to walk with him. Amen. Just as we start, there is an attendance list going around. Make sure you have a chance to put your name down. And also there are ballots being distributed by Malcolm and Travis. So if you don't have one, even just give them a wave to make sure you have that, okay?
Okay, Malcolm and Travis, there's lots of hands up there, so we're going to get through a couple things here, and then we'll be talking about elders. So one of the first things we need to get through is we have a section of meeting minutes from the previous year. So we have last year's AGM. We have secondary, when we had the votes in Aaron and myself, and then the February 9th, 2025. So that's not 2024, it's 2025. So we need a motion to accept these meeting minutes, and for whatever reason, I blank on names when I'm in front of people, so please bear with me. But if I could get a motion, then we'll do a seconder, and then we can discuss if anyone has any questions. So Adam Workington's got his hands up for a motion, and Doug Jansen's got a seconder. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that section that was in the AGM report? And I know we're getting ballots, so. Okay, looks like we're okay there. So, as a show of hands, can I get a show of hands as an acceptance of those 3 sets of agenda? Okay, thank you. Carries. I'm going to call Justin up. He's just going to give us a little walkthrough of the elder nomination process.
Yes, so we are losing 3 elders, sadly. It's with Claire, Deb, and Malcolm leaving, but we have 3 new elders coming on, which we're quite excited for. So the nominating committee was me, Pastor John, David Hall, Crystal Walker, and Hannah Rayner. And there was a lot of qualified candidates. Our church is very blessed to have so many people who do the position. But we we decided to do Julie Unvoted, Lori Glass, and Adam Workington. We bribed them with lots of pizza to join the elders board. So we will, I would like to make a motion if we could start the election of these new elders. Oh, and sorry, Ruth Esau is doing her 2nd term, so she needs to be nominated for that as well. So if we could motion to elect these elders, if I could have a person.
Justin, motion.
Okay, Wayne and Caleb second. Cool. And I think that's it, right?
Okay, so we're going to go on to a few additional things here, and while you're working through it, oh yeah, sorry, I missed that. So we've motioned, we've seconded. This is a chance to bring up anything, any questions around the process, anything that you would like to talk about with the elders that have been nominated and are rejoining. So if you have anything like that, I know we're still collecting ballots, so looking in the eye, but okay, I think we're good. So, as you're finished marking your ballots, please make sure you mark all 4. And Malcolm, Travis, Luke, and Jeff are going to be our scrutineers on this one. So if you see them, you can hand a ballot as well. And then they will bring the findings to me later. But we're going to move on while that all happens so that we keep this flowing. And I'm going to call up John Estabrook for the annual reports.
So our hope is that everyone's had an opportunity to look through the annual reports. It was sent out 2 weeks ago, and then this last week a slightly revised version was sent out. Pastor Justin came back and said, I'd like to write a letter too. So we added that, and we're going to work our way through. We are not reading the reports that have already been sent, but we are going to walk through and give opportunity for questions to those who have written, or an opportunity for those who've written if they have an amendment or a clarifying comment. I just want to start with my own letter. I just want to reemphasize this idea of what it means to become a come and see church. So this is not a reflection of an elder decision. This is my heart for who I hope we are and are learning to become. It's not to say that we're rejecting labels like evangelical or contemporary or things like that, but simply wanting to be a church that can lean into the invitation. And that's really the call, is that we would trust that as people come and experience us and experience what God is doing in and through this place, that they will experience goodness and life. And also, the reality is that a lot of our language today, even language that we accept as commonplace, can for some people carry a lot of baggage. And so just to move past some of those words that can be fraught with unintended meanings, And so I hope that this can become something of a reflection of us out into the world, to come and see. Well, why don't you come and see? What's your worship like? Well, come and see. How long does the pastor preach? Come and see. Just making sure you're listening. The other comment, and this was one, actually this was a reflection of a comment that was made to Pastor Justin and that he and I sat with. And this will not be true for everybody, but one of the comments that came back to us is this idea that we seem to be a church that is growing in the ability to handle the heavy and the hard, to handle the mess of life. And so ministries like Grief Share. Grief is not an easy thing. Our men's group on Thursday with a focus on purity. Different hards, but hard nonetheless. And so rather than just being a church that is here for you to come and to worship on Sundays and to enjoy the company of others and then to go home and to handle your heavy and hard on your own, I really wanted to be a church that we can press into relationship, that we can press into God's word and find support for each other, that we can face into the mess. Certainly the mess that we have within us, but also then the mess of those that we love and those who walk through our doors, those who are coming to see who we are about. So that's my hope. We haven't said as much this last few months about the 5 commitments that the elders developed and released last spring. We're still, I think, in a sense, kind of finding our way and seeing what does that look like for us to lean into these commitments. What are the activities we're giving ourselves to? Justin and I, we've been talking about a sermon series. So we're going to try something new this year. We're going to do a 6-part sermon series offered in 3 parts, in 3 sections. So 2 weeks as we move into the summer, 2 weeks as we move into the fall, and then 2 weeks as we head into Advent. And trying to talk about rhythm and pacing. I'm giving away one of the sermons already, but there's a Japanese theologian who says God moves at 3 miles an hour. And that's kind of the premise of some of his theology, right? Because the average person walks on average at about 3 miles an hour, and Jesus, God in flesh, came and walked amongst us. And a part of this is just a reminder that more is not necessarily a sign of deeper faith. And one of the things I am sometimes concerned about as I talk with staff, and I'm trying not to look at any of them, because I also know that I'm a bit of a hypocrite with this. One of my concerns is that sometimes our staff, we feel the need to validate our paycheck and validate our position through activity. And so we develop more programs, we develop more stuff, we do more things. And I don't think that kind of tyranny of the urgent, that just do more, act more, is necessarily what Jesus had in mind for us as he called us to a life of following him. And so we want to lean into this question of what does that look like for us to not do a lot more things to accomplish these commitments, but what does it look like for us to be engaging, embedding them in the rhythm of our life and our faith? And so we're in the process of wrestling with that, and so we hope that you'll wrestle with us as we kind of ask that question as we go into summer activities, as we go into busy falls, as we go into busier Christmas seasons. And then I just want to make a comment here again about, I know she's not with us today, maybe she's online, but just so grateful for Edith and for the role that she had amongst us for such a long time. It has been a different kind of a spring since she finished at the end of February, and we have, had to kind of lean into not having her here with all of the answers for all of the things all of the time, and also engaging a new staff member. Rebecca is brilliant. If you haven't been around yet, Justin is working on a new slang phrase. He's trying to make it so that whenever we do something terrific, we have Becked it, because Rebecca seems to be doing great all the time. I don't know if it's catching on. You can ask Justin if it's being received well, but Rebecca's doing a fantastic job, and we're so glad to have her here, but it doesn't diminish just missing Edith being around the office. And so if you see her, you encounter her, whether on a Sunday or throughout the week, just encourage her and remind her how much she has been missed here. That's all I'm going to say on my letter. Justin also isn't here to speak to his. I am going to ask Travis and Claire, who have taken a minute to also draft out a few notes. One, if there's any questions that you would like to share, or comments you want to make, or then if there's questions from the floor for our chairs.
I don't think so. I think we said it in there, but if anyone has some questions.
Would there be questions for either of our board chairs regarding things that they've said in the letter? There will be time as we close our meeting for questions from the floor around other business matters, but anything for our chairs? Wonderful. Thanks. On page 14 of the report, we shared, or unveiled might be too much of a dramatic phrase, but we wanted to identify for you a bit of a new organizing structure that we want to use for our ministries and programs and activities in the church. As we've gone back through the files and looked at some of these things, it seems that one of the quieter traditions we've had in the church is that most of our activities have been tied to the staff member who is responsible for them. And wanting to say, what really are the important activities, what are the broad functions or activities of a church, of a Christian church, and then to say, how do those become, how do we organize our events under these? And so the 5 categories that we've come up with are worshiping, growing, fostering belonging. Sorry, that's our commitments. The categories we have are celebrate, so that is the aspect of worship, and that engaging in the life of faith. Belong, so this is about relationship and community. Apprentice, we wanted to use language that perhaps those who are not raised in the church or those who are kicking the tires on and wanting to be a part of us. I got to meet a young man today who he was here with a girlfriend, and she's from Three Hills, and she's quite familiar with faith, and he goes, and I'm just trying to figure this out. And so for people like that, I love the idea of language of apprenticeship, because I think most of us can see in our mind's eye what an apprentice is, right? Someone who learns from a master or someone with more experience, and then who actually begins to build the experiences and the expertise themselves. And so celebrate, belong, apprentice, and then impact. We do believe that our faith is called to have an impact in the world, moving outside of our doors. And then finally, steward, which speaks to the leadership responsibilities. One of my hopes for these two is that they also become something of a way that we can kind of assess our own engagement in the church. Are we participating in celebration? Do we have a place of belonging here, Lord willing, through a small group or a triad, other place of service? Apprenticeship, are we putting feet to the things that we're believing to be true? Impact, are we involved out into the world, or are we kind of staying close to kind of the holy huddle? And then finally, stewardship. Am I moving into leadership and other significant roles? So it's not meant to be a kind of an earth-shattering thing, but it is going to be kind of a structure that we use more and more, from everything from our filing systems in the office to when we pull ministries together for conversations around collaboration. We'll do so along these lines. The rest of the report, you'll hopefully will notice, follow these categories, and so we'll just we'll work through these very quickly. First category is celebrate, which largely has to do with Sunday morning, although our Friday night sanctuary service certainly fits in that place as well. I'm just going to ask the Hills if you have anything you want to add to what you've written. Are you sure? I told the staff that we're no longer expecting them to get up and give a 5 or 10 minute presentation, and I think I got a round of applause for that. And now we can't get them up here to save our life. So are there questions, though, for the Hills? Because they will be happy to answer questions regarding the things that they've written in their report. This is also not a speak now or ever hold your peace. You can talk to them at any point in time. While we're at it, we can congratulate and thank people. Can we thank the Hills for their leadership? I'm going to actually ask a few people to stand now. I should have done that with Peter and Danielle, but can I get David Hall and Wendy Jansen from the Seniors Ministry, and Rick Merrifield from the greeting team, and Elaine Franey from the Coffee Corner, from the hosts, and Diane O'Hare from the Coffee Corner, Craig, he's not here, from the ushering, and Noella from the kitchen crew. All these people involved in our hospitality team. and seniors ministry, these things that fall under belonging. Could you just stand for us for a moment? Do any of you have anything that you want to add to this meeting today? Are there questions for them regarding their ministry? Wendy, it's 50? Is it 50 is the benchmark?
Well, I don't know, we like 45, but you know, whenever you start to feel, oh, I'm so tired, you come to seniors.
Okay, so you're saying young moms, and it's become if you're free on Thursday mornings, come to this group. Well, thank you so much to those who have who give so much effort to our hospitality. And I'll just embarrass her a little bit, but a thank you to Noella, who has stepped up to take on kind of some of this food and this kind of kitchen team. We had things in place pre-fire, and then you come back from the fire, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, you need to arrange brunches and funeral receptions, and oh, who does that? So Noella stepped up and said, I'd like to do that. So I'm just really grateful that you would put on another hat in addition to your staff position. The last minister here, we have a report that was written by Olivier, because Olivier is very nice to me and says yes when he could say no. Olivier looks after a number of the things that the men's ministry does, but there also are things such as the motorcycle rides that Doug Horton does. And there's a Thursday men's ministry that Justin gives leadership to. Olivia, anything you want to say about? What's that? Excellent. Maybe we can say thank you also to Olivier and Doug and those. All right, we're just rattling along. Under apprentice, this is where we move into, and I think, Noella, you had comments you wanted to make? This is going to be a very quick meeting, isn't it? As we move into apprentice, this is where we see those areas of ministry that are principally around learning and growth and beginning to live out the things that we believe to be true. And so Be Kids and Be Tween, the nursery, Mums and Tots is here. Here, we do want to have conversations. Mums and Tots might be a great belong ministry. So some of these things are going to shift and move around, but are there any questions for Noella in regards to the several reports that she has written for us? Thank you, Noella. Thank you, Noella. There we go. Wendy Colvin, is she here today? Is there anybody from the Tuesday prayer gathering that's here today? They're all praying, maybe. I just want to make a bit of a plug for Wendy, since she's not here. It kind of fits under our small group ministry. At the same time, I know Wendy and the group who gather every Tuesday night to pray, save for the second Tuesday of the month when they go out to a teen challenge and participate in a Bible study and prayer time with the men out there. They really don't want this group to be seen as a closed group or as a small group that's been together for years and nobody can join. They would be thrilled if there were people who wanted to join them. They meet online just for the simplicity and to remove some of the difficulties of travel for some. But if being a part of that prayer gathering is something you're interested in, talk to myself. You can talk to Wendy. I think you probably could speak to Deb Whitten as well. Happy to give you information on how you could become involved in that group. I only get to join them the first Tuesday of the month, and I often find myself in the other Tuesdays, with activities on, but wanting to be a part. When you spend time with them in prayer, it's very clear that these are people who know and love the Lord, and it's a very rich time. Deb, you look after the rest of our prayer ministries. Is there anything that you'd like to speak to, whether the after-service prayer or the emergency prayer chain? We do have microphones. Sorry, did you?
She just said wants people to be part of it.
You can let her say it again. Thank you, Luke.
I think it's done.
Okay. In other words, if you would like to be a part of that emergency prayer team, talk to Deb. She'd be happy to put you on that email roster. And Same thing for the after-service prayer team? Yeah. Thank you so much, Deb. Lori, somebody who's written a report needs to have something other to add, something great. Anything you want to say about the pantry program? We have written a very thorough report. Oh, Noella.
Food Pantry wants to know how to cut up 10-kilogram wheel of cheese.
There's a story there. Someone gave us a 10-kilogram wheel of cheese?
Yes, they did.
Wow, that's a lot of cheese. If you have any suggestions, go talk to Lori. We're not going to address that in our meeting. Bruce. Come on, you got something to say about missions, I'm sure. Missions report is in here. The impact is might be perceived as a bit of a smaller, just because there's only a couple of reports. But it is, we also are prayerfully trying to figure out how to be involved out into our community. I will plant a seed and just let you know that this summer is the 50th anniversary for our community association. And they're looking at a number of events in September. And we've kind of said, well, let us know what you're doing and when you're doing it, and we'll see if we can't be a good neighbor and participate in that. They're also hoping to do a couple of build days through the summer. They're looking to put up something of a gazebo in the park as a 50th anniversary project, and we have contributed towards that. If you recall, at our own 50th anniversary, we took a small collection to support something to express that this has been our neighborhood for 50 years. And so those funds have gone towards that project, and we hope for an opportunity to maybe show up and work and toil a bit with our neighbors in the community ahead of some fall festivities. So we'll let you know more about that as that comes up. I didn't see any, Bruce, anything to say? No? Nope. Any questions for Bruce or questions for Lori? You're subtle, Peter, subtle. Moving into steward, this last category, this leads into the either leadership ministries such as staffing or the elder role, or things such as facility and finance that kind of grease the wheels for all of the other ministries we've talked about. Bob serves as our facilities manager, and we give him a pittance of a stipend each year. It is very clear he does this because he loves us, not for the paycheck. Bob, anything you want to add to your report? No? Any questions or comments for Bob?
Is it really easy taking care of a new church?
For those who didn't hear, those at home, Luke asked the question, is it easy looking after a new church? Well, we're grateful, very much grateful for you, Bob, and the team that he's put together. I'll say that's a plug. Bob has very wisely said that even though the work is lighter, he doesn't want to do it all, and would rather have a team of men and women who can help with various needs around the building from time to time. And if you have a talent or skill or margin, talk to Bob. He'd be happy to put you onto his roster. Now, one who has no option but must come up is John Stocco. John is our new treasurer, and you can come on up because I know you've got some things to say. And so John has taken over from Stella Penner, and so has had some big shoes to fill, but I think a long-time friendship with Stella, and she's giving you some good pointers on what to do. So John is going to give us just a quick update. It's not from the report, but he's going to give us a quick update as to where we stand to this point in the year, and then has a few comments to make about the ensuing financial statements that you also will find in your report. So we'll turn over to John.
Good. So you said a picture of the ministries of Bonavista Church, narrative form. Now we're going to paint by number, and I'll show you what the church looks like in terms of numbers. On the Thursday newsletter every week, there's a little button that says financial reports, and that, if you press that button, you will see the latest monthly report of our operating fund. Do you have that one, Sam? That slide? Yes. Okay. Good. You see there's the year-to-date actual budget variance, how we're doing compared to budget. Look at the variance line. That's always the line I go to on these reports. See that our donations and our rentals are both running ahead of expectations, and our expenses are up and down a bit, but also overall under our budget. So we're 19,000 better off at this point than we thought we might be. So remember at our last members meeting when we were talking about the budget for the new year, and I challenged us that we're going to have to push the budget, the donations line, in order to meet our budget expectations, and we're coming through. Good. And if you go to the next slide, look at the graph. That red line that runs across the middle is our budget, what we expect to receive. You can see it's pretty flat through the first 11 months, and there's a big bump in December. Historically, that has been the giving pattern in this church. You can see those bars there. You see there's a big jump the last 2 years in December. It makes planning really weird, but it's predictable enough that we're counting on it again this year to some extent. But at this point, that's where we're at. I encourage you to, at the beginning of each month, push that button on the newsletter, and you'll get the latest report on how we're doing. Then going to looking at last year, we have, let's go to the first page of numbers, the statement of financial position. Something here to note is we have various funds. The report I just showed you is just the operating fund. That's where all the action is. That's where all the activities of the year happen. We also have a capital fund and various reserve funds and so on, but those, and I'll refer to those a little later where they're significant. But the statement of financial position is a snapshot of where our finances were at December 31st of 2024. Go to the next one, the numbers are so small that you can't read. Initially, this report was the horizontal, as in the landscape, and at that point in your book you can't read it. But on the screen here it's going to be too small. But you'll see that we received donations of $530,000 last year and rentals of $42,000. Various expenses, and some of the big numbers are broken down again in the notes. We'll come to those later. Our expenses exceeded revenues by $5,000. If you were paying attention and you have a good memory, you may recall that at our last members meeting, I said we had a small surplus. We essentially broke even with a small surplus. A couple of bills came in late, and so we ended up $5,000 deficit. Essentially, it's break even either way, so not to worry. Below the line, there's also a significant number that I just want to draw to your attention. The final payment from insurance came through in 2024 after everything else had been done. And so that shows up in our general fund, but it also is transferred out to and dispersed. So you see that $360,000 came in, and it was dispersed. Some went to the capital fund to pay the remaining costs that had not, for the furniture and equipment that we bought that had not yet been funded, and others went to various reserves. And I'll talk about the reserves again in a moment. If you have the next one, the statement of cash flows, it's irrelevant. It doesn't apply, it has no significance for a nonprofit organization. And if you look at the notes then, often the notes have very interesting things in them. However, the first three in particular are boilerplate stuff. If you have trouble sleeping one night, that will help you. Note 2 in particular, which is our financial policies. And the other couple of significant ones, capital assets. Did you know that the cost, yes? Note 4, I'm sorry, note 7. Note 7. Do you know that the land we're sitting on, this lot, they paid $44,000 for it about 50 years ago? There's a real stretch at the time, I can tell you. The building, $2.5 million has been invested in building, the initial building plus various upgrades and expansions over the years. And the furniture and fixtures, $317,000. You can see those are amortized as we used up the assets, the value of them. That net book value, bottom line, $1.49 million is the number that appears on the balance sheet on the statement of financial position. Just ties into that. Note 8. Note 8 is an interesting one. 8 and 9. I want to be sure you understand these. These are the restricted funds. Note 8 is the internally restricted funds, Internal restriction means the board restricted these funds. The board set this money, said we want to save this money for these purposes. And there's a significant amount of money there, and I want you to know why we're sitting on this much cash. First is the building project reserve. When we finished the rebuild, we thought we had taken care of everything, but we knew there'd be other things that had come up, and they did. For example, last week, Pastor John pointed out the additional lights because we found we didn't have enough light on the platform. And we have a baptism that's coming up soon. You'll find then we have light over there so you can actually see what's going on. It won't be happening in the dark corner of the church. So that was an additional cost, and that doesn't hit our operating fund because we had set aside money for this and other things like that that are coming up. So that's $30,000 there. The operating reserve of $150,000 is a break glass in case of emergency fund. This is one that we expect to never have to use. We hope to never have to use. But if the wheels fall off and we find ourselves in a situation where we cannot cover our expenses to operate, we'll have enough cash to operate for a few months while we reorganize, restructure, and adjust to the new reality. So that's money that sits there, hopefully never to be touched. The other board reserves is things that for things that are going to come up. We know that we're going to have some big expenses coming up. For example, we have 7 furnaces and air conditioning units in here, and they're all nearing the end of life. They're not on palliative care yet, but they're approaching that. And we know that in the next few years, we're going to be looking at replacing these at around $20,000 to $25,000 a pop. And that would do really funny things to our operating budget. But these will not have to hit that budget because we have this reserve to handle those things. The note 9 is externally restricted funds. And there's not that much in here, not very many items in here. There have been others in other times. A little bit of money in mission trip reserves. The big one is benevolence and generous. We did have 2 funds there. They were really overlapping, and it really was a distinction without a difference. And so we've combined them into one, and have a benevolence committee that's looking at the best ways to put this money to work, to invest it in people. And you hear some announcements from Lori from time to time. So we have $57,000 there that will be invested in people in benevolence type of projects. The next notes just relate to their breakdowns of some of the big numbers that were on the statement of operations, where you had $108,000 for facility costs. Well, this tells you how much of that was insurance, how much was utilities, how much was whatever. So those notes just give you that detail. And that is what is important, what you should know. Did I answer your questions? Did I leave you confused? Any questions that you'd like to ask for clarification? Yes.
Is there any discussion on the operating reserve, adjusting it for inflation, or like whether or not we need a larger operational reserve?
The operating, you talk about the balance in the operating fund?
Yeah.
That is, we're sitting at just over 100,000 we have in operations right now that covers the fluctuations. For example, you saw that a big chunk of our revenue comes in December, but our expenses are more even throughout the year. Also note that our insurance premium comes due in February, $20,000. So that big hit in February, so we need to cover those. That $100,000 has been adequate. And if we run a surplus, it will go up automatically. If we need to, some point feel we need to increase that, we can budget
operational reserve then, rather than the...
Oh, the operational reserve? Okay, that was that 200,000. That's note 9.
Emergency break glass one.
Yeah, that one, okay, that one, that's been a fixed amount. That one may be addressed over a period of time if we want to. It has not been considered yet at this point. Okay. And the other board reserves, like for the replacement of furnaces and things like that, more money go into that. If we find that we have a pocket of money comes to us from time to time that we want to set aside, that may go into a place like that. We don't have a plan for it. Yes.
John, I know we put some money into a GIC or whatever,
Yep.
some of this.
Yep.
And so then the interest that's earned on that, does that go to the operating fund or does that go into the reserve?
That goes to operating. We have, that's a policy decision we could make, but we have decided at this point to, we budgeted it for this year. It'll be in our December revenue going into operations. Yeah. Yeah, we bought the GICs in December. 12 months. They'll mature in December, and then we'll the interest will be available for us to use, and then we'll reinvest. But if we find at the end of December that we have a significant surplus, then that could be applied into something else, into that emergency replacement fund. At that point, that would be a decision to make depending on the cash we have at the time. Yeah. Anything else? Good, thank you.
This is probably a good moment actually just to point out that one of the slight changes that we've been experiencing around here has been the development of, as John referenced, a benevolence team. In the past, the benevolence monies have been handled purely by the pastoral staff, and we've enjoyed over the last few months putting together a group of people. So John Stocco and myself, Pastor Justin Fox, and then also Lori Glass and Ann Myers, just being a part of how are we handling these funds, everything from monies into the pantry, but also when there's family situations. Ann and Lori have kind of walked with a number of families, both in the church and in the community, through their very practical needs, and it's just been great to put a team together. Another team that is a little bit more vigorous than in the past is our finance team, and I'm see if I can remember everybody on the team. So John Stocco, as our treasurer, leads that team. It also includes Bob Chapman. It includes Brad Graham and Doug Horton. Now, in the past, our elders have essentially been the finance team with a treasurer speaking into them. And as you can imagine, that's meant that the elders team, our board, has had to give more time in meetings to handling a number of these financial matters. And so it's been just terrific over this past last year to be able to put together a team, not for the elders to abdicate responsibility, but simply to say, can we make space for the elders to do the things that the elders can do, and find people who are trustworthy and knowledgeable and experienced who can carry some of these things for us. And so, for instance, at the last meeting, John came and presented these financial statements so the elders are not just reading something without knowledge, but having someone to walk them through. And so a word of thanks to our benevolence team and also to our finance team. We're really grateful for you all. Yes, you can clap, that's fine. I did have, it was pointed out to me, I did miss a very important team in the report, and I did want to back up there. I think I skipped past the youth ministry under the apprentice category because Justin wasn't here to speak to that. I should have paused there, since part of what we're trying to do today is also express appreciation. And so if you notice in the report, Justin mentions that he does not run the youth program by himself, far from it. And so perhaps if we can just take a moment, there's Michaela and Justin and the Maws. I don't have the report in front of me, but there's so many others who are involved both in the small groups on Wednesday as well as the activities on Friday. And if we can just maybe express. And if there are no further questions, I would just make a motion that we accept the annual reports as presented. I'll let you do your thing.
No, go ahead. You want to motion it?
I motion
Don
it.
motions it. We get a second. Rick back there is no. Second it. Bob? Oh, sorry, John motioned.
Rick seconded.
Rick seconded. You're off the hook. If there's not anything else to comment on, we're going to show of hands to accept those reports. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm going to talk for just a couple more minutes, and then you can ask all the questions. I'm just actually going to stick to my script on this one here. So at Bonavista Church, we believe we are deeply loved by God, and in response, we seek to love God wholeheartedly and extend His self-giving love for others. This comes from our commitment statement. One of the key ways that we live this out is through our commitment to foster belonging in the way that Jesus welcomes us. And so in a moment, I want to share with you a welcome statement that grew out of a desire to create a community or to express our community that is seeking to reflect the hospitable, gracious heart of Christ. especially towards those who may feel uncertain about their place in church. Now, you may remember, back in July 2023, we first shared a land acknowledgement statement during our Canada Day gathering. And when we continued to use that statement the following Sunday, we had some questions and some commendations made. For some, that land acknowledgement statement has landed well. It resonated as an act of humility and respect. But for others, it raised important questions and valid concerns, such as how political are we trying to sound, or concern about are we virtue signaling or paying lip service to ministries to Indigenous peoples, etc. And so that concern was brought to the elders, and we sat with it. And we have sat with it. And you may have noticed I said July of 2023. We've sat with this for a while. One of the things that we recognized was that as an elders team, our commitment is to speak with one voice when speaking as a leadership team. And we recognized that we were not of one mind when it came to that statement. And so we took time to listen and to reflect and to wrestle with whether we should keep the statement or remove it altogether. In the months that followed, we chose to lean into a posture of listening and learning. We welcomed input from Alison Lefebvre. She is a member at the EMC Church in Didsbury. She is working with the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada and our own denomination. And last summer, several elders also enrolled in a course called Walking Well with Our Indigenous Neighbors. This is offered through Acadia College and was written by Danny Zacharias, an Indigenous Christian pastor and academic. This winter, I, along with Ned Benner, took a course entitled Indigenous Spirituality and Christian Faith. And all of this we have done in order to deepen our understanding and to help us better engage with these questions. Now, eventually, we realized, and this is the brilliance, I think, of Aaron Delamont, we realized that we had been sitting with the question of keep the statement or ditch the statement, right? A dichotomy, an either or. And Aaron had this brilliant question of, maybe we should consider rewriting. And so as we sat with that and the things that we learned through the course, we came to the place of crafting this welcome statement that I'd like, Sam, if you could put that on the screen for us now. And so I know you can all read, but I'd also like you to hear it, so I will read it for you. Welcome to Bonavista Church. We gather with gratitude to God in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta and honor the long history of stewardship of this land by Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge that followers of Jesus have not always walked well with those who were here before us, and so we seek to foster relationships of truth and respect that can lead to reconciliation. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. This is a place where we seek to listen, learn, grow, and celebrate the beauty of life in Christ together. Come and see. Now, our hope is that this statement reflects our identity in Christ and our desire to be a church where belonging is real and not just theoretical. A church that can acknowledge past harm while pointing towards healing. A church where people can come with their whole story and be received with grace and dignity. A church where all are invited to come and see the beauty of life in Christ together. I will say, before you ask your questions, and I certainly hope you will ask, this statement has been reviewed and affirmed by both Alison Lefebvre and Reverend Dr. Ray Aldred. He is a respected Indigenous Christian theologian and professor, formerly on staff at Ambrose University, now serving out in BC. Their insight and encouragement have helped us move forward with greater clarity, humility, and hope. Ultimately, this welcome statement reflects our commitment to be a community where belonging is not something people have to earn, but something they can receive, just as we have received belonging from Christ himself. I am intimately aware, because of our long conversations and discussions, that this will be a statement that some will feel is irrelevant and not needed. Others will feel it's watered down from what we used to use. And others will think it hits just the right note. And so I recognize that personal perspectives We're not going to get a thumbs up from everyone, but I do want to commend to you your elders team. These are the sorts of things that there just isn't an easy, quick conversation and answer, particularly when you recognize that those you respect may not agree or even appreciate what has been done. And so I just want to say just a hearty word of thanks to the elders for sitting with these conversations that can be lead to dissonance. So yeah. And so having said all of that and sticking to my script so far, I'll just ask if there's any immediate questions. And again, you can come at any point in time. This is something that won't be read in our services. We want this to be something that those who come to our website or perhaps are even coming to our service or watching online, that they'll see this statement. We hope it will signal to them that this could be a place that they can come with their mess, as we said, a place where we can handle the heavy and the hard. So, are there questions at this time? You also have my number.
Will it be titled?
Oh, where are we? Sorry.
Will it be titled as a land acknowledgement?
I think our intention is for it to simply be expressed this way, to try to move to
No other title.
Yeah.
Is the expectation that we should have visibility into the elders board making these decisions, or is it like a little bit of at the Baptist Church was the surprise that it happened on Canada Day? So is that just the expectation that these decisions are made with no visibility as to the type of decisions? Or, like, I know you went over the talks that you had that you just went through, and well, we found out about it right now, sort of thing. But is that the best way of visibility into the elders' decisions, or do you have other guiding principles?
So the process, and this is not to throw in under the bus, but as we were preparing our Canada Day service in 2023, which because we were meeting on Saturdays, fell actually on Canada Day, Peter had come to me and asked, said that this was something that he had been working through in his own process, and I gave him the go-ahead to develop that. I did a little bit of tinkering with what he wrote because I can't leave well enough alone, and we included that in our service. And I would say we used it on that initial Canada Day. My understanding, and I think the understanding of the elders, is that we actually didn't have any pushback on that being used in that particular service, but it was when we included it the following week that we had a number of, hey, that's great that we're using this, or that's not so great, we have a concern. You know, is this John expressing a value on behalf of the church by allowing it to be used on the slides? Is this something that needs further discussion by the elders? And so we took those concerns that were expressed either to myself or to elders or to the staff, and we took those to the elders, which is what precipitated the conversation, where we recognized with the elders that there was a difference of opinion on the team as well. And so I guess in some sense, finding out, knowing in advance what are the things that the congregation says, yeah, you work on this, and what are the things where the congregation says we want to speak into it, is always a bit of a challenge, but certainly wanting to take the concerns expressed seriously. One of the challenges we actually faced was that there was a number of people who expressed support for it, but the comments about support were like, hey, that's great. There wasn't a why they liked it, whereas there was a number of people who were able to articulate why they were uncomfortable with it. And it just seemed like it was a serious enough, it's always serious, but to say it was important enough that the elders needed to wrestle with that. And I think from our very first conversation, I'll look to Travis or Claire, our chairs, I think from our very first conversation, we just recognized that this was one that was going to require us to lean in and have a bit of patience with each other. So I guess to say, there will be moments where the elders will feel that this is a thing to carry in response, such as this time, I think. We have tried to go back to those who have expressed concern periodically and just say, we are still working on this, it's just taking a little bit longer. But at the same time, not knowing how long the process would take, we didn't necessarily like for instance, at last year's AGM, we didn't flag it as this is something that we're working on. So, which in hindsight may have been an appropriate thing to do. But fair question. Any other questions?
First of all, I don't disagree with anything that's said up there. I just wonder, why don't we just act like that instead of feeling obligated to say it?
It's not lost on me, Bob, that we are, just a few minutes ago, I talked about us being a come and see church, where we don't rely on titles or words, and now we're using words. The reality that we're finding is that in this day and age, so it used to be, for instance, I'll pick on the Fox family. Mike would come and scout out this church on a Sunday morning to see if this was a safe place to bring Claire and the kids. He would go home and report, and then maybe they would come again the next week. That has moved more to an online reality. People are checking us out online, they're looking at our websites, those sorts of things. And we feel that this is a place where ultimately the elders felt that this is a place where we needed our words and our actions to line up. I certainly hope that we are living this out, or that we learn to live this out in better and deeper ways. But we also felt that for those who are only getting a taste online or through a website, that we wanted to express the heart of who we are, or hope we are, or who we're hoping to become. I would also say, and I know that not everyone will agree with me on this, to me, the comment before was, are we not wading into areas that are maybe not our responsibility? Are these not things these are societal things and not church things? And I guess I would say, for me, what we're trying to express here, and maybe not expressing perfectly, but trying to express, is if not the gospel itself, an expression of the gospel, an expression of wanting to reconcile, to walk well with people, to be ministers of reconciliation, which is even the ministry that we've been given, as Paul says. And so if this can signal our heart for that, I would rather err on the side of saying something than on the side of hoping people pick up what we're laying down. So, fair question, though. Kristen.
I just want to make a comment about having a land acknowledgement in church. I'm a teacher in the Catholic board, and they do a really beautiful land acknowledgement every day. And I learned this year from hearing elders talk about it, that the point isn't to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples, it's to incorporate a practice of gratitude that the Indigenous peoples practice when they gather. So they practice acknowledging the land that the Creator gave us and acknowledging the people who share that land. And I think it's a beautiful practice to include if we take the politics out, because the politics is what makes us angry. So if we can recognize gratitude is like a huge part of developing faith, and I don't think we always as Christians acknowledge that this land that God gave us is given to us, and we are to steward it. So I think that this is a practice that allows us to practice something that is really healthy as believers also.
Thanks, Kristen. Any other questions or comments? Tracy.
Just to clarify, so this will be on our website as well?
I believe that is the plan, yes.
Okay, and so then just with that, will this be the first thing that people would see about our church? Or there be what we believe about God above it? Like
this is not meant to be the homepage. This would be, and I'm probably answering something that Justin could better answer for us. He's looking after the website right now, but I think the idea is that this would go under the who are, like, about us section. So this would not be banner on the front page, but this would be, as someone is exploring and digging in, that they would find this statement. Okay, so like the church's belief about our church and our God would be above it, I guess, is the... I think the who we are and the what we believe statements are separate, but I certainly wouldn't want this to be superseding, doctrinal statements. Yeah. Okay, so then just like, is there also a doctrinal statement going to be on our PowerPoint, I guess? It's just that this is the only thing of statement of belief?
on our PowerPoints?
Good comment. The intention is actually for our pre-service slides, and I'm hoping I'm not speaking ahead of plans, but one of the things that we've talked about is hopefully actually using more scripture in our pre-service slides, and also those commitment statements, so that the things that we're saying we're committed to giving ourselves to, fostering belonging and worshiping and those sorts of things, and seeing the announcement slides more of those move to after service, and stay with things like the newsletter, etc., so that the slides before service are speaking to our heart and scriptures and those sorts of things. At least maybe that's been a discussion we've had. I don't know if we've landed there, but that's kind of what we're hoping to move those pre-service slides, so that this room is becoming less about information and is becoming more about, just speaking to our heart, speaking to our focus, and those sorts of things. Good question. Julia.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is the intention of this to help Indigenous people draw closer to God in our church and feel more at home with that, or is it to bring their practices into our expression of faith?
No, a good question, thank you. Yes, so as I was saying before, I think to Bob's question, part of our hope is to say that as people are saying, is this a church that I could walk through the doors to? I don't mean to cause more questions by using this as the answer. I would say in the same way as the United Church has chosen to use the rainbow flag as a way of expressing to people that they are a safe place for LGBTQ people to go to. What we are hoping to do is to say, can statements like this express Indigenous people who are wanting to figure out Jesus as Indigenous people can walk through the doors. You don't have to be white, you don't have to, but also part of it is just recognizing, because of this history we have in Canada, that it's not the most glamorous when it comes to how the church and Indigenous people have interacted through the years. So this is in no way to say that we are looking to become syncretistic, and that we're looking to bring in Indigenous beliefs, but rather to say that as we worship Jesus, if you are Indigenous, you are welcome in this space. And certainly, as we rewrote the statement, Julia, the second portion here, and we did wrestle with this because, and I'll mention it to you, I don't mind saying, the first sentence of the second paragraph is the biggest sentence in the whole document, and makes it very clear in my mind that this is not speaking any longer specifically to Indigenous people, right? Like when we say, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Like, I asked the elders multiple times, are we ready to say that? Because that's, again, about making space for the heavy and the hard. And so, yeah, this is about, we want to respectfully teach the things that we believe to be true, but we want people to understand that they can come in here with safety, and would be respected in this place. I think you look in the States, there's different heritages, different traditions, different nationalities have struggled in race relations in America. When we look in Canada, the prevailing, not the only, but the prevailing challenge seems to be between Indigenous First Nations people and the Christian church, or at least those who have acted in the name of Jesus.
John?
Yes?
Would it not then be better to put that paragraph first? Because if that's the important thing, that's what we're trying to say, then we say that first.
It's a great question. Elders, Travis, something to add to the agenda next month. I think it's a very fair question. I don't know why it didn't occur to us, but I think as we were rewriting what we first had and then wanting to close with a sentiment of welcome, but I think it's a fair question. Thanks. Are we...
One more question here, Joe.
Okay. Oh, and I think there's some questions up here for others with microphones. Yes, Bob? Yep.
I mean, we should be welcoming to everybody. Why is this so specific to Indigenous, and why is that important, and what does the word reconciliation mean to us as a church?
So as I said, the second paragraph, I hope, first sentence of the second paragraph, I hope expresses that we're moving beyond only welcome. And so maybe there is some really good value in saying, let's be clear, it's a statement of welcome to everyone, and then acknowledging our context for that welcome. That might be a valid way of going. I would say, I think the elders' understanding of when we talk about reconciliation, we're talking about what the scriptures call us to, right? The idea of so being reconciled with God and being reconciled with one another. The idea of we come to a place where we can now walk well with those who once have been an enemy or at enmity, or those that we have been in opposition with. So we certainly should be welcoming to all. The reality is I do think, though, that oftentimes there are churches who say, the sign out front says all are welcome. And then the church doesn't necessarily live out that all are welcome statement. And so it was a question I think I asked the elders for the last 3 meetings as we were closing in on a final draft of, do we understand that this is a big thing we're saying? And not merely just the land acknowledgement piece, but saying that we want to be a church that, that we're going to make space for the storm-drenched, as it were. John?
I like that it's not the usual standard wording that you hear every place you go. I think that's become trite and virtue signaling. I like that it avoids the political aspect of it, which because that's not our business. I like that it focuses on the spiritual relationship between us and the people involved. So I think that I like that, and I also like that it avoids some of the self-flagellation that's involved in the standard statement that you hear all the time. So I like it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anne, did you have a question? Did I see?
My comment would be that I agree with Suzanne that wherever you are on your journey, you're welcome here. And then the first paragraph is acknowledging where we meet is on land that was looked after by someone else and has a history to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually quite a great question. I can't speak for the elders on that, but I don't see why we wouldn't bring that back to the conversation at our next meeting. Bob has a question over here, or a statement. Lisa.
I just want to say that I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate that we can have varying viewpoints. I appreciate the work that the elders did for a year and a half, and particularly for the input that you had from people who have wisdom and knowledge in this area, that it didn't become an insular discussion among the elders. Thank you for taking the courses. Thank you for putting in all that extra work. I know it takes time. It's also very humbling to do that kind of stuff. And I'm encouraged that you guys are bringing that back into our congregation, and I hope we can have more conversations like this, because I think the questions are valid, and I think if we don't have information flowing in, we can become quite lost in our own thoughts about it. So thank you for all of that. And I think maybe we should move the paragraph. Maybe that's an easy change, right? So thank you for all of that, and to all the elders who did that work too.
Thank you, Lisa. Bob, was there a comment or question?
Yeah, just a thought about the placement, first or second. It's kind of similar. I like where it is now because similar to how you did your service today. You had your main point. We had the prayer, and at the end, you clarified and went right to the gut of what you want to do, how God is building with us. When you read that thing, when you're done, the last thing you're thinking about is what's important instead of the first thing and then messed up with all the details. So you get the details, but the main point is the punch at the end. So when you walk away, you're thinking about the punch, not about the little details. And if you put it at the front, you get the main point, but it's lost in the details. Just a thought.
Thank you. Thank you for complicating our meeting next month, Bob. Bruce.
I'm really happy that the elders have taken this step. I think you should know that your missions team actually works in this area. We've been considering this stuff for a long time. And one of our missionaries, Ned Benner, has a mission to Indigenous people. But even before that, I've always seen it as, because missions has been about, there's been a great number of changes in the way missions has been done in the past 25 years, and an acknowledgement that in the past maybe some things weren't done as well as they could have been by followers of Jesus and things. So the emphasis is now on not the West going and telling people what the answer is, but listening to see what the problem is and working with local people. This is like that. And in our relationship with Indigenous people. And so, missions has always tried to support reconciliation and things that go along with that to peoples of any culture. And I really see this as part of the missions work of the church. Please statements like this in our relationship to Indigenous people, and I really applaud the elders for moving ahead with this work.
Thanks, Bruce. If there are no other questions, Sam?
Yeah. So back in 2023, the first time it came up, I know that I and a few other people were upset by it and didn't comment on that first week because out of a desire to not promote disunity in the church, right? There should be a willingness to accept that other people disagree with us on things. I'm just wondering, what would you prefer in terms of feedback if there is something that we oppose on some level? Like, do you want us to come up to you that week, or?
I think if there are things that trouble, it's important for us to know. And I trust you enough to know when you do that, right? If it's, I give it a bit of time and then we come, or if it's, this is something that I need to speak to immediately. Broadly speaking, I would say I think that it's pretty clear in the scripture that we all, as followers of Christ, have a responsibility to be listening to what God is saying. I would say, though, I do believe that in large measure, discernment of what God is saying actually comes through community. I really do. And so this is where I think that can be a challenge, right? When you have a community, when there are disparate views, it's not always easy. And so I think there has to be space to hear, which also means that there has to be some wisdom as to, is this a thing I need to come right away? Is this something I take John out for coffee this week? Is this something that I wait and see if it's going to happen again? Or, but yeah, I guess I'm gonna put that back on and just say I trust you to figure out where this fits on the scale of immediacy. If I can deflect that way. Okay, thank you. William.
Okay, I got a couple of points here. One, in regards to the placement of the final paragraph, should it stay there? Should it go above? Forgive me if I'm committing a little road fallacy. Is there a way to do both somehow, split it up somehow, and that way maybe we satisfy everybody, maybe we satisfy nobody, which is also, sometimes we got to be satisfied with those types of situations. So, I don't know. And I know it's a bit of a sacrilege, just kind of wondering here, since this is not a land acknowledgement on the website, are we going to be stating, like, by the way, this is not a land acknowledgement, or do we feel need not to do is leave it as it is, since we're saying this is not a land acknowledgement, something completely different? Should we avoid confusion for that for some people, or do you think that's not needed in the slightest?
Well, what I'm going to say is, so the question was, are we putting a title on this of land acknowledgement? So as I spoke with, certainly when I spoke with Ray Aldred, in fact, I had expressed to him, I said, some in our congregation have expressed concern about how political the statement is. And his own comment back actually was, well, good, it's a political statement. I'm like, oh, don't say that. The challenge, I would say, is, so there are rules for a land acknowledgement. I've come to learn this. And so this, the first paragraph does follow those rules. What I think I was trying to answer Suzanne's question was, well, the intention isn't to put a title of land acknowledgement. This is going to be a statement of welcome. And just to be really clear back even to Tracy's question, is whereas as much as I think of where it's going to go, I'm not developing our website. So we will figure these things out and hopefully have them in appropriate places. So in measure, this serves as a land acknowledgement, but what we wanted to focus on was the expression of welcome. And so we're trying to do a few things at the same time, and sometimes you know what that means is you don't do anything really well, but I'm quite happy with where we're at. So. And going once, going twice. Okay. I think it's back over to you. Yep.
Sam, can you give me the agenda again? My computer is quick. So I think we're near the end here. I'm pleased to announce I got the results back. Elia, Lori, and Adam have all been approved or voted on and accepted for joining the elders team, and Ruth has also been approved to continue on for another 3 weeks. So we do have one last spot here for questions from the floor for anything else that was said during the whole meeting. I don't have a lengthy discussion on the welcome statement, but is there anything else that people would like to bring up about what's happening, where we're at, etc.? Okay, thanks. That brings us to the end. So I just have to finish off, and I will mention, I think Luke, I need the ballots from you so we can destroy them. So just make sure. Oh, do I have them? Oh, they're probably the next box. Okay, I haven't opened the box yet. And so this is the time where we get the really fun part of it during the meeting. So we need a motion from someone for that. Linda's got one, and Peter's got the second.
We motion that we destroy the ballots first.
In our bylaws, we don't have to. Yeah. So if anyone is opposed to adjourning the meeting, anyway, thank you guys for sticking it out. With a show of hands, are you good with adjourning the meeting? Yeah, she says. Thank you, everyone. Go enjoy the sunshine. Looks great out there. Maybe a little windy.